Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news. We finally have rumours as to what Red Bull's punishment will be for breaching the cost cap back in 2021, but apparently the FIA have given them an offer that they can either accept or deny, and Red Bull are not willing to accept any wrongdoing and thus any punishment as yet. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Sorry for no new video yesterday, but we've got plenty to discuss today. So look, it's fair to say, as TacticalRab says, Red Bull are not exactly the most popular team in the paddock right now, and all the drivers have been giving their thoughts over the last couple of days. Couple of quick updates for this weekend's COTA Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas. Zhou and Perez, 5-place grid penalties for them with another ICE. Perez, I imagine, has just taken a new one, so we can absolutely max it out for Mexico, which of course is the next race. Zhou as well. Also, Alonso apparently going to take another grid penalty as well for a new engine, and Leclerc may take an entirely new power unit and go all the way to the back. We thought he was just going to take another ICE and start from, well, 5 places down from where he qualifies tonight, but apparently he's going to go all the way to the back. So yes, not ideal for Leclerc, and it seems more and more likely that Leclerc's championship challenge will now turn into P3, if not worse, who knows, in the Drivers' Championship from now to the end of the season, because Perez is certainly right there to snap that up, and probably will happen at the rate that Red Bull are going, but who knows what Ferrari will manage to deliver this weekend. Those are the grid penalties for the weekends. Let's talk about the cost cap then. So the drivers have given their thoughts. Vettel said, you know what, look, Max was the champion last year. No one's going to be taking that away from him. And to be fair, I never really expected the FIA to actually do this, but the question is there and has been raised by the drivers as well, that they want a severe penalty for Red Bull breaching the cap. Even as Hamilton said, if they get away with a slap on the wrist, what's the point even having the cost cap, right? That's the drama we've been seeing the last few days, where Mercedes are like, well, look, if they get away with it, we're going to do the same next year, and good luck. You know, we're going to budget out $100 million for the fine, pay the luxury tax, and build an absolute rocket ship, right? So Hamilton and others have been trying to make sure that this punishment hurts Red Bull. They've gone over the limits. The FIA knows it. Well, at least that's what they're put into writing. And then a lot of the drivers are saying, you know what, we hope this hurts Red Bull and gives a serious punishment to just deter other teams doing it, right? We don't want the cost cap to be a drama every year. We want the teams just to comply, and then, you know, we can move on. And in the long run, it should be good for the competitiveness of the sport, because other teams, and I think even Haas, they struggle to reach the cost cap, right? Because they can't really find enough budget to spend that much in the first place, whereas Mercedes, Red Bull could spend 300-400 million if they wanted to, and then they're capped at 145, or this season, probably next season, be about 150 million. But Haas actually have a new title sponsor, I think, so I think they might be able to spend that much this year. So, you know, it should be good for the sport in theory, but all this drama is probably a natural consequence. Even as Perez says, the facts will come out. So Red Bull are still pretty adamant they haven't breached the cap, and they're actually, it's okay, but it's just there's a couple of things that they disagree with the FIA on as to whether they should be counted or not, and we'll see that here in a second. But Red Bull are not willing to seemingly accept the punishment that the FIA have given them, that they have to, well, if they accept the punishment, they not only get a serious punishment, but also they have to admit their own wrongdoing. And, you know, there's been a lot of pride going around from Christian Horner saying, we're under, these guys, they're just talking load of bollocks, right? And, you know, Horner, I'm sure, would have to swallow his tongue a bit if he then had to admit, actually, you know what, yeah, we did breach it, XYZ. And Max Verstappen is basically calling a lot of the teams hypocritical and saying it's mainly because we've been doing well, they're trying to slow us down, but at the end of the day, that's Formula 1. So this is what came out yesterday. We've been talking about this $1.8 million figure now for a week or so, and that was now talked about officially, the $1.8 million overspend apparently. Now, this seemingly is coming from some sort of tax rebate that I didn't claim, sick pay, and then catering costs in addition to some sort of like spare parts thing that was going on. So kind of difficult to say. This is a breakdown of what apparently might be the case, with Red Bull's submission being 141 million. And then there were 4 cost elements that added up to put it over the top. So these are gardening leave and sick pay, which some people said aren't counted, some people say are, catering, some sort of HMRC rebate, like a tax rebate, and then use of spare parts, which like I'm a little bit confused about this whole thing, to be honest. If you guys understand it better, feel free to let me know. But apparently there's 4 different things that the FIA and Red Bull are discussing, whether they should be included, whether they should not. And Red Bull are going to try and do their best, I'm sure, to make sure that whatever they have to skirt around, like it is not included, such that they fall under the budget cap, right? But obviously their accountants haven't done the best job, because apparently they submitted $4 million under, and already when you're submitting $4 million under, makes me think like they're leaving a lot of leeway there. They must have known that there was was something else going on, because if they were really confident in their accounting, surely they'd have submitted at like 144 and be like, yeah, this is legit. I wonder what the other teams submitted at, to be honest, whether they were significantly under just in case, or, you know, because every extra million is a serious deal. So I'm kind of surprised that this was their submission, but that apparently is what is going on here. Now, the FIA have kind of done the classic thing that they like to do, is that they've proposed an agreement to Red Bull, and they've said, hey, if you accept that you breached it, we'll give you this punishment, maybe a less severe punishment, but you'll have to admit that you did wrong, but you get to keep your championship, is effectively what they apparently are saying. The FIA has proposed to Red Bull the possibility of reaching an agreement on the budget cap, an opportunity that the team is willing to take, even if the conditions set by the FIA don't seem to have been welcomed by Horner. So some are saying they're going to take this up, some people are saying they're going to fight it, and you know, this settlement agreement they'll have to backtrack on it, right? Which obviously will hurt the pride shown by Horner and such, but still, it will have to admit they violated the regulations, accepting these increased measures in the future, and then accept the sanction placed on them. But they will be able to keep their sporting achievements, and Verstappen won't lose his championship. So that's kind of the trade-off that Red Bull have to consider, or they double down and they say, no, we're not accepting your deal. Like, you know, we think we did okay, and then the FIA will be like, well, you know, let's just give you that sanction, and then worse. I don't know, or maybe there's further conversations, because apparently Mohammed bin Sulayem was meant to be talking to Horner, then their meetings got delayed, then Ben Sulayem was like, I don't want to talk to Horner now because he's just going to say this, so we're just going to postpone the meeting. Like, honestly, the toys were getting thrown out the pram. It's absolute mess, to be honest. And they were meant to have a meeting, and then it got postponed and delayed, and then they were meant to do like a public announcement where you thought Red Bull were going to say, okay, these are the numbers, this is what's happened, like, we're sorry or something, I don't know, and that got postponed. So whatever's going on right now behind the scenes, it's clearly an absolute mess, but the crux of the matter is that the FIA have apparently said, we're going to fine you, and we're also going to significantly dock their wind tunnel testing time for exceeding the cap. This is kind of what I thought would probably be the punishment, reduction to testing time and stuff like this, because a lot of the teams are like, well, look, if you spent more in 2021, then that extra advantage that you spent on gets carried over into this season, therefore to a certain extent to next season as well. So you've got to try and reduce that kind of carried over advantage, and one of the ways might be to reduce their testing time. Now, the rumor has it, according to Amos, that a reduction of 25% is what has been proposed, and in fairness, this is actually a really significant number, because like, if you're first in the Constructors' Championship, you get a set amount of wind tunnel hours. If you're second, you get that amount plus 5%. If you're third, you get that amount plus 10%. So Mercedes, if they come third this year, will get 10% more wind tunnel testing time than Red Bull would have, and then it's a 25% reduction in Red Bulls. So Mercedes, Ferrari will have 35%-ish in that ballpark more testing time in the wind tunnel than Red Bull will for the upcoming season. Like, that's a pretty big deal. And on top of that, it's a fine. The fine doesn't matter, let's be honest here. It's more about the kind of development of the car. So, you know, that apparently is what's happening. Now, Red Bull is said to have disagreed with this. Like, you can understand why Red Bull would want to disagree, because, like, I think that's a pretty significant number. And if that does happen, it should, like, punish Red Bull quite significantly for their breach in future seasons, and reduce, especially because there are some aero changes next year and stuff as well. Some small tweaks, really, but, like, extra, you know, every hour in the wind tunnel is definitely valuable. So apparently Red Bull don't want to agree to this. They don't want to say, yeah, we did wrong and we've got to take a big punishment. They want to double down that they did nothing wrong. So we will see what happens here, right? But I mean, even Giuliano De Kesser's talking about it, the implications here of the amount of time in the CFD and in the wind tunnel, and these kind of additional penalties would dispose of half the hours compared to the reference value. So yeah, 30% beyond Ferrari, or 30% less testing time than Ferrari, 35% from Mercedes will be kind of how this works if they get it reduced by that amount. So of course not confirmed yet, but that is the rumor, that they want to reduce the wind tunnel testing time significantly for Red Bull for the upcoming season, really. And that probably would have a pretty decent effect in terms of coming back on whatever potential advantage they gained, competitive advantage last year from it. Red Bull are going to say they gained none. Other teams are going to say they gained a significant amount. And that, as I say, is why it's difficult to really determine what made them go over the cap, because maybe those spare parts that made them go over, like, what other teams also not having spare parts, but like they're just included in a different area of the bar chart, whereas in Red Bull's case, they're going to chuck them on the top and say, well, you know, that was the reason and it's not fair or something, right? It's honestly, it's crazy how the transparency is so hard to find. At least it's maybe marginally better than it was in 2019 when everybody knew the Ferrari engine was illegal, and then they just kind of had a chat about it and were like, yeah, we've had a private settlement on the matter, and they still obviously kept, you know, the races that they won. So that is the present understanding in terms of what's going on. Speculation of course. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? Is this a good punishment for Red Bull? Is this fair? Is it too far? Is it not far enough? Like, it's obviously really tough to say, and that's why all this is so subjective, right? And the teams have been pushing hard for them to punish Red Bull, and I think the teams will probably look at this and say, you know, okay, fair enough. Like, that is a pretty significant punishment, but some might want them to go further, right? Which I think is also understandable, but yeah, they have reason for doing exactly that. So yeah, Helmut Marko says winning does not make you friends, and has also said, you know, winning does not make friends. Some think they're getting an advantage by doing this, but they don't think outside the box, kind of saying that these teams are trying to tear Red Bull down or whatever. So, you know, there's a lot of statements coming out from all across the park, and even George Russell says if 100-odd million was the fine, they don't care, they'll probably be happy with that. So there needs to be more of a punishment than just a fine, and that seems to be what is now coming out. But Red Bull are going to get their lawyers and their boys in the boardroom to try and claim that either, you know, this isn't fair, or for whatever reason they want less of a fine. But if it turns out that their punishment is significantly less than this, then questions will also be raised. So yeah, the transparency is not exactly ideal, I would say. But while all this is going on, Red Bull have a great chance this weekend to extend, well, to break the world record of the number of races with top 2 finishes in a row. They can extend that to 18 with victory or second place here at the Circuit of the Americas. Very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.